If you're practicing or starting to practice coach leadership techniques in how you grow the capability of your teams, there are a number of really good reasons for why you would want to explain coach leadership approach to your team, your peers, and your boss. What are they, and what's most important to explain? That's what you and I are exploring together today. Hi, I'm Sehaam Cyrene, and this is the Leaders Who Coach podcast. I teach leaders how to use coaching skills to be more effective, confident, and influential at work. And through my podcast, I share those skills with you so you can mull over them, experiment with them, and decide how they work best for you. Before I dive into today's topic, I need to lay the groundwork, and that includes two key concepts. One is understanding what it feels like to be a coach leader and equally what it feels like to be coached by you. And second, understanding the coach leadership way of explaining the coach leadership approach, or indeed explaining any approach you're proposing. I'm going to start with understanding what it feels like to be a coach leader and what it feels like to be coached by you. The leaders I teach tell me their daily conversations are now richer, slower, less rushed, less waffly, more thoughtful, and much more collaborative. They find themselves anticipating or trying to solve their people's problems for them way less. I call this less heavy lifting, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot on the podcast, because truly it is the way to build greater accountability within your team and reduce the stress that you're feeling because you feel responsible for everyone's success. You feel calmer because you're not trying to solve everyone's challenges, and you feel more in control because you understand exactly your role in these conversations and have your own body of evidence that proves to you that when you coach your direct report, you get a much stronger, more robust result. For those of your team you coach, here's what they experience about you as a coach leader. You don't solve their problems for them. You don't assume they don't know what to do. You don't undermine them, huff, take over, and fix the problem yourself. You don't do any of those things. Instead, what you do is create an inviting space for them to share their ideas for solving the problem. You're asking them great questions that help them think critically, at depth, about the best options, the risks, stakeholders. Perfect conditions for accountability. When we can be creative, because problem solving is a creative activity, and we can fully or substantially own the solution, we are much more willing to be held accountable for the results. This is willing accountability. I've designed the solution, I've talked it through with you, I can handle any setbacks, I know what to say, when and to who. So yeah, I'm confident this will work, and I hold myself accountable. Understanding what it feels like to coach and be coached helps us answer the very first question I've posed for us. Why would you make a point of explaining your coaching approach? And explain the second key concept, which is understanding the coach leadership way of explaining your approach. Let's start with, why would you explain your coach leadership approach? To strategically socialize the coach leadership approach among your team, your peers, and with your boss, to reduce resistance to it, to build yourself opportunities to experiment with the skills and techniques as you grow, and to invite people to gain their own experience without any pressure and decide for themselves if it's a good thing or not. This really is an important series of events. Think of them as building blocks to getting buy-in and growing your own confidence in coach leadership being the optimal way to lead people. What you say and how you might say it, I'm going to share my recommendations a little later in this episode. The point to hold on to for now is this: it takes time to socialize an idea or approach. And as a coach leader, you need to plan for that. And if you plan for it, you won't get frustrated. or as frustrated. You factor it into your approach. It forms part of your growth as a coach leader. How long it takes depends on a number of conditions. How receptive your team or organization is, which you can influence over time, your skill level in coach leadership. You control your own growth here, and probably a collection of little surprises somewhere in the corner that we can't always predict and have no control over whatsoever. So, environment, skill, and the unexpected. And often we make it harder for ourselves. We have a tendency to introduce an idea or concept, push hard for acceptance, don't give people a chance to go through their own process of denial, resistance, understanding, and so on. And then we wonder why no one backs us. We think one or two conversations should do it. We think others should trust our judgment. We think it's a great idea because it is. It's obvious, right? Well, then, why are you finding it hard to convince people? Why are people being argumentative? Why are people not making it a priority? Because we haven't given people a chance to warm up to the idea, to overcome their fear of something different, unfamiliar, new. And that's fair. Because think about it. How long have you sat with that idea before deciding to take action? What did you need to understand and be convinced of? What finally gave you the confidence to move forward? If you've got my book, The Better Conversations Rulebook, Questions and Phrases Practiced Daily by Leaders Who Coach, in rule number 6, less haste, more strategy, you'll find me declaring that we expect too much from one conversation and that we would do much better if we broke up what we hope to achieve in a single conversation into a series of conversations, because really that's way less stressful and pressured for you and everyone else. Let's face it, under pressure, none of us are very receptive to new ideas or possibilities. I go on to explain the 3 critical phases in any conversation, which are wholly applicable to getting buy-in when we are proposing an idea, an approach, or a solution. These are the socializing phase, the creative alignment phase, and the contracting phase. You'll find out more about them in the Better Conversations rulebook, along with a bunch of questions and phrases that you can experiment with. For now, I'm focusing on applying the socializing phase for explaining your coach leadership approach to those you work with and collaborate with. Here's what I explain about the socializing phase. The socializing phase is a relatively low-risk stage that's great for gauging the strength of people's opinions and or reactions to your ideas. What might you be stepping into? Who is attached to the status quo or the outcome, and why? You might have a few of these socializing conversations with lots of different stakeholders and decision makers to map out the landscape. Socializing conversations are characterized as being presented to individuals and groups with the lightness of a feather, so as to be exploratory and non-threatening, with low emotional attachment, so we can invite honest responses and be receptive to alternative or counter positions, and with an invitation to talk again further and more deeply in the future. This approach and stance will help you work out what your next move needs to be. So, socializing an approach de-risks the possibility that people reject it. Socializing involves a series of conversations with people, some of which you repeat and loop back on. And socializing is not adversarial or pressured, but instead is inviting of different opinions, even if they seem like resistance. Socializing is strategically smart because it buys you time to work out your next move or adjust your approach. Let me check in here. Have I answered why you would make a point of explaining your coach leadership approach? I think I still have 2 additional thoughts to put to you. The first is this. If you want the best chance of practicing coach leadership skills and techniques, you want to have a pipeline of supporters or advocates to ensure your own success as a coach leader. Coach leadership is not something you can execute on your own. You need team members to coach. You have peers and a boss to support. You need them to be receptive to your coach leadership approach. Now, I specifically said a pipeline of supporters or advocates because not everyone will be open to the approach from day one. If you work in sales, you know that a pipeline is a funnel of potential sales where some prospects or proposals are at 90% chance of happening, some are at 60 and some are at 20. Not all will come through and not all at the same time, which is actually what you want, because if they did all come through at the same time, you'd be overwhelmed. It's the same with coach leadership or anything, really. If you have one or two people at the start of your journey willing to give coach leadership a try, that's great. Some of us take more convincing, need to see the evidence, need to see it in action, need to experience it for ourselves, whether because they observe you doing it in team meetings or they open up to the idea that you might coach them through a challenge. Over time, you grow a bigger and bigger audience of people receptive to your style of leadership. You also need advocates at different levels, people in your team, your peers and your boss, and across different functions, the teams you and your team regularly work with, because these are the people you need to collaborate with, build amazing products with, and deliver on the organization's strategy with. Conversations are happening all the time. Many of them we're not in and you don't know about at all. You want your advocates, people in other teams and functions, to know exactly how to talk about coach leadership and how to support you in those conversations happening in pockets randomly around the organization. The reality is, if we don't understand something, we either won't talk about it or we'll talk about it in unhelpful, criticizing ways. That's just what we do when we don't understand something or we fear it. So if you don't take ownership of the narrative, somebody else will. And if you don't have advocates or find yourself working against any resistance, you're going to become cynical very quickly, get frustrated with people you work with, and give up on realizing your own goal of being a coach leader. The second thought I want to share with you is one of the inherent responsibilities of being a coach leader. It is incumbent on you to create a clarifying culture for your team and, by extension, your organization, which basically means that A, you play your part in building and defending the behaviors that honor your culture, and B, that you make use of opportunities to reiterate what's valued and what compromises those values. By the way, you might want to catch my previous episode, How Personal Values and Blind Spots Drive Your Leadership Behavior, for a deep dive on personal values that drive your behaviors and that of your team members, your peers, and your boss. What do I mean by building and defending the behaviors that honor your culture? Well, it's basically how you respond to situations that come up all the time. Mistakes, escalations, clashes, misunderstandings, work not done, etc. Do you ask yourself, in what way have I contributed to this situation? Do you view mess-ups as opportunities to grow as individuals and as a team? And do you do those things consistently, predictably, so your people know where they stand with you, and so they can copy the coach leadership skills and techniques that you are modeling? I know, there's a lot of considerations here. So here's my quick summary. You're socializing your coach leadership approach, you're growing your coach leadership advocates and supporters, and you're finding opportunities, especially mistakes and problems, to defend the behaviors that honor your team's culture. Before I share how you might do that, what you might say and how to who, I want to get really clear about why, what's the upside, the personal advantage to you if you do explain your coach leadership approach. The interesting thing about answering that is this. Most leaders don't know what's missing in their leadership approach until they learn and practice coach leadership skills. And when they do, they express with a giant smile, that they feel more confident in conversations and calmer because they are waffling less, holding far more structured conversations with their team members, and don't feel the stress of always having to come up with the solutions. They also talk about how much they have come to know every member of their team, how knowing the values of each team member has made conversations easier. And instead of dreading meetings, they become highlights of their day. Another magical thing that happens for leaders who coach is they find their attraction levels go up. People start coming to them for a reliable and balanced perspective, a space to think out loud without being judged. It's attractive because it's rare to find people who you trust with your feelings and thoughts at depth, have the presence and patience to walk through the details with you, and who you know for certain are rooting for your success. This is how your reputation as the go-to person builds. That reputation opens up opportunities for you to be promoted faster, to lead interesting projects and initiatives. Now, I'd say those are excellent upsides to being a coach leader. And when you can explain to people how things have improved for you and your team because of your coach leadership approach, you'll find people, your peers and your boss, start to become inquisitive and interested in what it means to coach as a leader and people manager, because they will realize they want those things too, to feel confident and calm, more connected to their people, and to feel valued by their peers as a leader with presence. So, why wouldn't you advocate for yourself and invite people to experience coach leadership with you? Okay, don't go anywhere, because we're wrapping up this episode with what you can say when explaining your coach leadership approach to your team, your peers, and your boss. Before that, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you more about the Better Conversations rulebook and the team volume discount. No one tells you what's really going on in a conversation. That's why I wrote the Better Conversations rulebook, questions and phrases practiced by leaders who coach, to uncover the truth of what's happening, why some conversations play out in frustrating ways, and how you can transform them and your relationships at work. The Better Conversations rulebook is based on some of the skills I teach in my CPD certified course, Leaders Who Coach, that graduates are raving about, calling it transformational, life-changing and brilliant. The Better Conversations rulebook includes 88 questions and phrases with explainers for you to experiment with. If you want copies for you and your team, these are printed on demand, so no waste and better for our earth. Use the discount code TEAM15 for a 15% discount. You'll find the order link in the description. That is a great way to build common understanding about coach leadership within your team. Whether you're a tech dev or product team, sales or marketing team, finance team, or senior leadership team, it's all 100% relevant to the work you're doing every day. Okay, so how do you go about explaining coach leadership to your team, your peers, and your boss? What do you say, and how might you say it? Now, I like to be realistic. Not everyone is going to be receptive to coach leadership. Not at first, anyway. Not until they've observed it for themselves, and maybe never. And that's completely okay. For those who you start to work with in the coach leadership style, you might find it helpful to share a little bit about it and why it's important to you. You might want to proactively tell them about it, set up some time to chat together, or you might choose to wait until they ask about it. Only you can decide what is the best way to do it, what's comfortable for you and for them. You might want to build up to it as you practice and strengthen your coaching skills and your confidence. That certainly takes the pressure off. And if you feel that's the best approach for you, then great. So on the Leaders Who Coach course, I get leaders to craft what we call a statement of commitment. Sounds heavy, but really it's just a chance to craft something, a short sentence or two, to prepare for those conversations. It's more about knowing what you want to say, what you value most about coach leadership, and how you hope to work with them and why. In the very first episode of the Leaders Who Coach podcast, Why Coach Leadership Beats Traditional Leadership and Pure Coaching, I shared my definition of leaders who coach. Here it is again. Leaders who coach use coaching skills to amplify their effectiveness in leading and their impact on the business, as well as guiding and directing people. Leaders who coach are committed to working in partnership with you to support and inspire you to grow and achieve your fullest potential. So here's how you might explain it to your team members. And these are just suggestions. You should absolutely reword them and make them your own. I want you to feel natural talking about it and using your own words. Are you ready? You might say, hey, I've been learning about coach leadership. It's where, as a leader, I use coaching skills and techniques with you to unlock your thinking and possibilities. I'm like your thinking partner. I'm here to help you think through challenges, plans, ideas, your career, whatever is important to you. That means I'm doing a lot of listening, and I'll ask you questions to help you explore stuff at depth, figure out your best options. I want you to walk away from our conversations knowing exactly what you want to do and why. How does that sound? And then invite questions, either by falling silent and letting them process what you've asked and giving them time to ask a question. Or you might directly ask, what initial thoughts or questions do you have? Or what would you like to know more about? You might wish to also explain that coaching conversations will feel a bit different, more structured, and that's normal. That it comes to feel more natural and easy the more of them you have together. To your peers and your boss, you might want to explain it this way. I'm totally bought into the coaching approach with my team. I've started to use it in my one-to-ones and in our team meetings, and I'm already seeing a huge improvement in the quality of our conversations and the ownership of issues among the team. I think it's strategically important that I grow the capability of my team so that we can deliver on the organization's goals. I'm seeing the confidence grow in my team, and I'm stressing less about being in all the meetings and decisions. They know they can always come to me at any time, and we're clear about what needs to get done. Now I've got a bit more time to focus on the big strategic thinking that you need me to do. The main things to consider for any of these opportunities to explain your coach leadership approach are keep it succinct and be ready to give examples of what a coaching conversation looks like, which incidentally is exactly what my next episode is all about. The coach leadership conversation arc, key questions at every stage. Or you can tell them about the growth of a team member, how one of your team has stepped up their game and what an impact that's having. Remember, if you don't tell people you work with about your coach leadership approach, they will never know. And to be successful and enjoy this journey into coach leadership, you need advocates and supporters, typically the people you work most closely with, to smooth the path for you, reduce resistance, and build a growing support and understanding of coach leadership. And the best way to do that is by giving them first-hand experiences and chances to observe your practice in action. They will notice how you show up with more confidence, and they will want that for themselves too. They'll notice how you speak less and intentionally, and how inviting that is for others to share and be creative. And they will want that too. They will feel seen, valued, and acknowledged by you, and that will tell them you care about them. They definitely want that. We all do. And they will notice that people are drawn to you because you offer a safe thinking space, and they know how that feels and how precious and rare that is. And so many other magical things become possible for leaders who coach. Awesome. Thank you for being here today. We covered a lot of ground. Let me know how you get on. What did you try? What worked? And what needed tweaking? If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd appreciate you letting me know with a thumbs up and a review of the podcast. Other leaders value your opinion, and your support helps me reach more leaders like you who believe that coach leadership is the future of leadership, the way for a healthier and happier team and culture. Up next on the Leaders Who Coach podcast, you and I are exploring mastering the coach leadership conversation arc. Key questions at every stage. What is the structure of a one-to-one coaching conversation as a leader and people manager? What is critical at each stage? And questions you need to be asking from start to finish to make sure your team member leaves every conversation with you knowing exactly what they need to do and why it is important to them. Join me again on the Leaders Who Coach podcast.